I'm here for a personal interview with Angela Donovan. Um, we would like to know the first question, which is why did you make the Wish book? The real truth behind it all.
Wow, that's not a small question to start with. So the Wish book, why did I do it? I did it because I received enough of information to come through to me to tell me that the entirety of humanity needed a wake-up call. And in my frustration of all the work I've done, I knew I had to work in a way that would assist as many seekers as possible. It's not that everyone is going to want to know about the Wish, but there are certain percentages of humanity who are ready to help themselves. So I call them seekers. So I realized that those who are searching on the net and across the world to find themselves and know the truth needed assistance to realize that the whole power is within themselves. And it's a very difficult one because most of us have been brought up and taught that there isn't any power within us. It's all out there. And I knew that the power is within us, and it's thought and the power of thought concentrated in you that creates. So I then went through the process of learning for myself how to work this for everyone to be able to do and change their whole lives for themselves. So that's why the Wish came about. And then, of course, it took a year or two to process that information, test it, try it out, and then actually make it happen for other people to be drawn. And I also knew, this is me going off on one to an extent, that those who are ready would find me, find this work. So if I put it out, whether it was on the net and to clients and people I knew, that those who are ready would come. And the others, they'd go, oh no, I'm not ready for that, or no, I don't think that interests me. So the Wish itself, and the word, the Wish, is really because it registers something in you. And you go, what is that? I can make a wish for myself, and it's not out there, it's in here. And so the whole concept of the Wish was to assist people find themselves, know their ID, recognise what power they have within, and help them find that power. And there's only one thing that actually stops us having our empowerment in ourselves, and that is fear. So, of course, if we can actually understand our fears and where they come from, we can then get our whole empowerment, recognise who we are, what our identity is, our role in life. Every single human being has a role. And I think it is so sad that we haven't been allowed to know that when we were little children at school, and to know that we have got a role and we all have a talent. And the whole of that is the Wish.
I've personally read your book, and are you meaning to say that the power of creation actually exists in each human being?
Yes, there's no question in my mind that that power of creation is in each individual. And to find that, of course, we're talking about recognising where in the body is this. It's not in the leg, in the arm. What's running me? Who's in control, in charge of my life? So the whole point of this is that you can actually find out that, for a start, it's coming from your thought and the power of thought. So we can't allow it to live on trivia, and to recognise that that is linked to the whole universe, and we are, however much we feel individual, we are linked in our consciousness to all that exists.
How does it work? Is our thought being sent to multiple dimensions through the universe, or would you explain more of how it works in terms of a universal language?
Of course, that's a very biggie question, and some will want to hear that and some will not. And so you're digging quite deep in the universe. So, yes, without question, yes, there are dimensions and dimensions, and what a lot of scientists call the multi-dimensions. So it will ricochet, resonate throughout the universe and throughout many dimensions. And what, people say, well, what on earth is a dimension? Everybody says we're in a physical dimension. And what we've got to understand, keep it simple, because that's where I'm coming from, is that they're different frequencies, rather like people tuning in on their internet or tuning in on a radio if you're old-fashioned. And so the idea is that if you tune into a different frequency with your thought, and if you like, there are high frequencies, high pitch, and there are low frequencies, it will communicate and send out. Distance is no problem. It'll send out across the universe. So it will go through many dimensions. There's no question. It will go through dimensions. So absolutely right what you're asking, but of course I have to be a bit more careful how I would say that to most people.
Could you, as a medium, explain more of the dimensions that actually exist on Earth specifically?
I would see it and express it in this way. We have numerous planets in the universe. We are all linked to all the life force that exists on numerous planets. And contrary perhaps to what many try and tell us, there is life form and there are humans on other planets. So what I'm saying is that when it comes to planet Earth, where we all are, as humanoids as I call us, we can link through to the dimensions, that means the levels again of the frequencies that exist attached to planet Earth. So it's what we found is that there are low frequencies, therefore low dimensions, and there are high frequencies, high dimensions. So then we end up looking like a humanoid and going, is that because up there is heaven and down there is hell? And of course we have to take into account the fact that that's how we've been conditioned and programmed throughout this civilization. But in truth, the dimensions, there are lower ones which are more dense. So we go into the more dense dimensions, and because of the humanoid sense of thinking, we see it always down below. So we've got this, it becomes more and more dense and heavy as you go down, linked to planet Earth. So you've got to have the attraction to being, if you like, a low frequency in you as a human, or you attach to a higher frequency, and again there are levels, which again dimensions linked to Earth, which are very much lighter the higher you go on your frequency. So it depends how many lives you've lived and to where you've got to within existence to do that. So as you're speaking about this, what I've got to say is that we're all at different stages depending on how many lives we've lived. So we can't expect a new soul who's coming to a vessel called human physical life to be at a high-pitched frequency when they haven't lived any lives and had experience. So I'm actually going into this in quite a lot of detail, but so we've got these dimensions, 7 below us, which are the more heavy ones, and we've got 7 above us, this is in human terms, which are lighter frequencies. And depending on where we've got to in our stage of development, we will be able to communicate on different frequencies, therefore in different dimensions. And why so many will speak of hearing their families who are coming in, or hearing and seeing angels, or feeling they've seen entities, ghosts, or even devil, demon-like beings. And I don't think I need to even go there to say, well, it's rather obvious where they're coming from if they're heavy. So that really explains it, keeping it as simple as possible.
Now, I read an article yesterday that the scientists have just discovered that there are water on planet Mars. But so far, none of our scientists have actually discovered other life forms that actually exist, what other people call as alien. They haven't really actually proven that aliens actually does exist on planet Mars or planet Venus. Why do you think that is? What is our world currently suffering from that we can't find the truth to all of these existence in our universe?
Well, you're asking very important and significant questions, and some people won't even be able to consider the sort of answers that I would be interested in giving. But what I do know for a fact is that some human beings have enough consciousness within them to recognize a greater truth out there in the universe, and there are others who cannot. They're restricted in their thought processes and therefore in what they believe. They follow, if you like, the old educational system. And when I'm speaking on this, I'm talking about scientists. There are scientists on my left and there are scientists on my right, all with this very different way of being. So we have to allow for the fact that there is a restriction within the educational programming and the what's allowed out to most people in our world. And I would say this, when the people are ready, the truth will be there for them to assimilate. And I don't believe there's a great percentage of people who are ready to take on the truth that there is life, and it is like human life, on other planets. And I believe the scientists that are allowed currently to speak out are within the confines and parameters of their job that they're given. And I would think most of them, and certainly some I've met, are so caught up within that tunnel vision, they wouldn't even have the opportunity to consider more. I believe that maybe most of humanity is not ready to know a truth. We're not ready as a whole because until we're ready, we're not permitted. So it's rather like having a dense mist around planet Earth. We are not allowed to travel to the moon. We are not allowed to travel to Mars physically. Why? Because we are actually not able to be loving, caring, sharing like the rest of the people around our universe. I believe that most of humanity is still in a more of a brute form, and we are still man, especially, and I do mean man, not woman, especially, are too busy killing, creating wars, and considering materialism and money and greed. And until we've got over that, we will not be allowed to see and consider the truth of what's on Mars, what's on Venus, what's on all the many planets out there. I'm not saying all of us can't see this, but very few are permitted to know that truth.
There's been more UFO sightings lately this year compared to last year, and it has increased in number. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they are here, and what are they trying to convey to us?
There is one side to this that what we call UFOs, I prefer also to call some of them round-wing planes, just because they look different, and there are many different shapes and sizes. And I believe that the build-up that you're speaking of is very interesting because it means more human beings are seeing them, more people are reporting them. There have always been, within this 100 years, a tremendous number of vessels out there. I believe some are definitely coming from Earth anyway and are connected to our people who have got the ability and been given the